Hello and welcome. It's been about 6 years since GST was introduced in India, and now that we have GST statistics regularly being updated on the GST portal itself, I thought why not make a video to analyze this data. Basically, we are going to analyze the performance of some of the states in India and see which is doing better. Here is the GST collection for the last financial year 2022-23. It is a state-wise collection and the total collection for the year is about rupees 13.25 lakh crore or 13.25 trillion rupees. Now this standalone statement as such may not make much sense to us, so let's analyze this a bit. Here is a chart on the states that have collected more than 5% of this total collection during the last financial year. This is in the ascending order, starting with Haryana, which has collected about 6.54% GST during the last financial year. Then we have Uttar Pradesh, which has a slightly higher collection, 6.64%, Tamil Nadu 7.88%, Gujarat 8.62%, Karnataka is the second, 9.27%, and Maharashtra tops the list at 20.4%. Now these 6 states together contribute to about 60% of the total collection, and the remaining 40% comes from rest of the states and union territories. Now for the purpose of this video, let's call these states as top performing states. Wait a minute. On the basis of analysis of data for just one financial year, can we call these states as top performing states? No, right? So let's analyze some past data. Basically, we are going to analyze GST collection of these 6 states during the last 6 years and see if there is any consistency. Here is a GST collection of these 6 states starting from financial year 2017-18 to financial year 2022-23. First Haryana, then Uttar Pradesh, Tamil Nadu, Gujarat, Karnataka and Maharashtra. Now as we can see from here, it seems like there is a consistency. Let's see some numbers. On an average, Haryana has collected about 6.42% GST during the last 6 years. If we compare this with the last year value, it is 6.54%. Then Uttar Pradesh averaged 6.83%, and for the last year it is 6.64%. Then Tamil Nadu average 7.99%, and for the last year it is 7.88%. Gujarat average 8.55%, and for the last year it is 8.62%. Karnataka average 8.91%, and for the last year it is 9.27%. And then Maharashtra average 19.66%, and for the last year it is 20.4%. So as we can see from here, these states have been pretty consistent when it comes to GST collection. So for the purpose of this video, we can consider these 6 states as top performing states as far as GST collection is concerned. But is it prudent to categorize these 6 states as top performing states on the basis of analysis of just a single parameter? No, right? So let's analyze some more parameters. Basically, we are going to analyze 2 parameters here. One is number of active taxpayers and the other one is the proportion of taxpayers who have filed GST returns, be it GSTR1 or GSTR3B, on time and after the due date. Now once we analyze these parameters, let's summarize our analysis and then understand the key takeaways from our analysis. So let's start with the number of active taxpayers. This data is as on 30th April 2023. First we have Uttar Pradesh at 12.86%, then Maharashtra 12.01%, Gujarat 8.18%, Tamil Nadu 7.94%, Karnataka 7.06%, then we have Haryana at 3.64%. Now these 6 states together contribute to about 52% of active taxpayers in GST in India, and the remaining 48% comes from rest of the states and union territories. So as we can see from here, Uttar Pradesh has highest number of active taxpayers under GST in India. Let's now talk about GST returns. That is proportion of taxpayers who have filed GSTR3B as on 30th April 2023. First, Maharashtra. For financial year 2017-18, 97% of taxpayers have filed GSTR 3B as on 30th April 2023. Now this would include those who have filed GST returns within the due date and those who have filed after the due date. Then for Karnataka, this proportion is 95% for the same financial year. For Gujarat, it is 98%, Tamil Nadu 93%, Uttar Pradesh 94% and Haryana 96%. Then for the next two financial years, that is 2018-19 and 2019-20, there is a drop in this proportion. This could be because of slowdown in the economy. Then for the subsequent two financial years, that is 2020-21 and 2021-22, there is an increasing trend, and this could be because of recovery from first and second wave of the pandemic. Then for the last financial year, that is 2022-23, there is a slight reduction in this proportion. So for ease of understanding, let's average this out. In Maharashtra, on an average, 93% of taxpayers have filed GSTR 3B as on 30th April 2023, and this number is same even for Karnataka, Uttar Pradesh and Haryana, that is at 93%, Tamil Nadu slightly lower at 92% and Gujarat 96%. Let's now do a comparison between GSTR 3B and GSTR 1. Now here is the average proportions of the taxpayers who have filed GSTR 3B as on 30th April 2023, which we have just seen. Let's now compare this with the average proportion of taxpayers who have filed GSTR 1 as on 30th April 2023. For Maharashtra, this is 85%, Karnataka 86%, Gujarat 90%, Tamil Nadu 87%, Uttar Pradesh 84%, Haryana 86%. As we can clearly see from here, the proportion of taxpayers who file GSTR 3B is slightly higher than that for GSTR 1. And Gujarat is the top performing state as far as proportion of taxpayers who have filed GST returns as on 30th April 2023. Let's now do a similar comparison for GSTR 3B and GSTR 1 and see the proportion of taxpayers who have filed GST returns within the due date. Now here are the average proportions for all the 6 states, that is the taxpayers who have filed GSTR 3B within the due date. Let's compare this with GSTR 1. Now here are the proportions of taxpayers who have filed GSTR 1 within the due date. Now even here, proportion of taxpayers filing GSTR 3B within the due date is higher than that for GSTR 1, and again Gujarat is the top performing state here. With this, our 3-parameter analysis is complete. First, we had analyzed GST collection, then number of active taxpayers, and the last parameter was proportion of taxpayers who have filed GST returns within the due date and after the due date. Let's now summarize what we have understood so far. First, Maharashtra. Average GST collection is 19.66%. Active taxpayers 12.01%. Proportion of taxpayers who have filed GSTR 3B as on 30th April 2023 is 93%, and those who have filed within the due date is 60%. Proportion of taxpayers who have filed GSTR 1 as on 30th April 2023 is 85%, and those who have filed within the due date is 51%. Similarly, we have this data for other states too: Karnataka, Gujarat, Tamil Nadu, Uttar Pradesh and Haryana. First, let's talk about Maharashtra. Now, if we do a comparison between collection and registration, that is, collection of GST as a proportion of active taxpayers, then Maharashtra's GST collection is 1.64 times its active taxpayers. Now this number in isolation may not make much sense, so let's compare this with other states. For Karnataka, this is 1.26 times, for Gujarat 1.04, Tamil Nadu 1.01, for Uttar Pradesh 0.53, and for Haryana it is 1.76. So as we can see from here, Haryana is the top performing state as far as GST collection as a proportion of active taxpayers, and Uttar Pradesh has the least number here, 0.53. Let's now talk about GST returns, starting with GSTR 3B. On an average, 93% of taxpayers in these 6 states have filed GSTR 3B. Now, 64% taxpayers have filed it within the due date and the remaining 29% have filed it after the due date. Now, this also would mean that the rest 7% taxpayers have not at all filed GSTR 3B. Let's now talk about GSTR 1. 86% of taxpayers have filed GSTR 1 and those who have filed within the due date is 53% and remaining 33% have filed it after the due date. And the rest 14% have not at all filed GSTR 1. Now, what does this signify? Here we have 3 major observations worth noting. First observation is 29% of taxpayers have filed GSTR 3B after the due date and 33% of taxpayers have filed GSTR 1 after the due date. This is the first observation. Second observation is 7% of the taxpayers have filed GSTR 3B but not GSTR 1. Now, what do these observations mean? First, these taxpayers have to pay interest if there is a GST liability, then late fee and penalty wherever applicable. That is first one. Second, as some of these taxpayers have not filed GSTR 1, then the transaction would not appear in GSTR 2B of B2B buyers. So such buyers would not be able to avail input tax credit, which contributes to an increase in the cost of goods and services. And finally, as consumers, we have to bear the brunt. Third observation, 7% of the taxpayers have not at all filed GST returns, be it GSTR 3B or GSTR 1. Now, what does this mean? If there is any GST liability, then there is a loss of revenue to the government because these people have not deposited GST to the government. Then, as these taxpayers have not filed GSTR 1, the transaction would not appear in GSTR 2B of B2B buyers, so there is no input tax credit, eventually increasing the cost of goods and services, and this ultimately gets passed on to consumers. Before we wrap up, let's do a recap. Maharashtra is number 1 as far as GST collection in absolute value is concerned. Uttar Pradesh has highest number of active taxpayers under GST in India. Haryana contributes to highest GST collection as a proportion of active taxpayers. Gujarat has highest proportion of taxpayers filing GST returns. Karnataka is the second largest state as far as GST collection is concerned, and Tamil Nadu is in 4th position. Now, GST returns. About 30% of the taxpayers file GST returns after the due date and 7% of taxpayers are yet to file GST returns. On top of this, we have fake registration, fake credit, etc. So I think the focus here should be to reduce this proportion so that there is no blockage of input tax credit, and this in turn can help in reducing the cost of goods and services to some extent. This is all I have for you today. Hope the video was informative. Thank you for watching.